Yes guys, hope you're all good. Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm basically just going to analyze all of my trades which I took in the last 2 weeks to pass a 100k account and hit 10% in profit, okay? I'm going to analyze these trades completely for you guys just so you can get a better understanding of my strategy and how I trade, okay? So this was the first and actually the biggest trade that I took. I'll put it on screen. So this made me 4%. Which was a really good start to the funded account. So as always, started on the weekly time frame, and we can see here, if we move across, we were on a downtrend ultimately, okay? So you might be looking at this and thinking buys are a little bit risky. However, if you look at the bigger picture, we can see that we created a lower high here, sorry, but then we created a higher low, okay? So that's the first sign that price is changing its structure to the upside. We then had a higher high created, breaking this high here. So that was even more confidence that price is now going to start an uptrend. So I basically anticipated price to retrace into this fair value gap here on the weekly and create a higher low, okay? So then we came down at the time frames on the 4-hour time frame. To add to that confluence, we had our tap into the weekly on the 4-hour, and then we had a really nice push up on the 4-hour. Now this candle shows really good rejection from this weekly, which again gives me even more confidence, okay? We then moved down to the hourly time frame where we can see our change of character. On this time frame, we can see coming down, creating lower lows, lower highs. We then create a higher low here, and then ultimately creating a higher high. That was the last confluence that I needed. Now all I needed was my entry confirmation, okay? So we then pull out the fib from this hourly move here, and we can see price comes down and taps into this Fibonacci retracement zone. Not only that, we also have a 30-minute resistance zone here. You can see price has come down and used this area as resistance multiple times, 2 times here, to push it back up. We then broke through, used it as support slightly here. We then broke through, so I anticipated price to not only tap into this 0.5 on the fib, but also this 30-minute resistance zone to use as support to push it further up. So once we tapped into that, we then just needed a entry signal, and we got really lucky here that the candle which actually tapped into it ended as a 30-minute hammer candle. Now this is the perfect entry signal that you can ask for, okay? We've tapped into our point of interest, and that same candle has shown rejection, wicked that area, and ended as a bullish hammer candle. That is perfect. Hence why I had a really tight stop loss on this one, making me 4% on my 100k account. So that was trade number 1. So this was my second trade of the 100k account, and this was actually a head and shoulders setup. Now this is a really good reversal pattern, and on the higher time frames it was actually a counter trend trade, which is a lot more risky, but I had that leverage with already being up 4%, so I could have that riskier trade to take, if that makes sense. But it was still a good setup, it wasn't too risky, okay? So you'll see on the higher time frames we were heavily bullish. This was a sell trade, so we sold up here. We managed to get that candle down, and you'll see again on the daily. Was it this candle here? Yeah, it was up here. So we were almost at all-time highs. It was a very risky trade, but let me just show you why I took this trade. So first of all, our first insight was this bearish engulfing candlestick, okay? This is a really good sign that price is slowing down. You can see we've not had any big bearish candlesticks on the 4-hour until now. So that shows that price is slowing down. Whether that's sending price all the way down, we don't know, but it is showing good signs that price is slowing down, okay? So that was my first sign that potentially sells could be on the cards here. Now, if we come straight down to the 1-hour time frame, this is a head and shoulders pattern. So if I get my paintbrush up so we can see this a little bit better. So this is the origin of the head and shoulders setup, okay? we can see that we have come up, we have created a shoulder here, come down, created a neckline. This is the head, retested the neckline, okay? Retested the neckline. So I expected price to retest the shoulder line to then look for a sell. Now this is a really common reversal pattern, and it is very strong. It's very high win rate, okay? I've used this many times and it's proven nothing but strength, okay? So despite the amount of bullish intent on the higher time frames, you can see that we've still managed to pull a sell from the markets, which shows how strong this head and shoulders setup actually is, okay? So not only is this head and shoulders retesting this shoulder, this previous shoulder line here, it's also retracing into the 0.5 to 0.618 on the fib, okay? So that's an added confluence. So once we had that, we simply looked for our entry confirmation. And in these hourly candles, you can see there's no real candle formation here, which is showing sells until this one. We wick all the way through, we sweep the previous liquidity point, still resisting off of this 0.618 and respecting it, which shows very good sign, and ending as a lovely bearish hammer candle. So that was our entry signal. We put stops above the high which that candle created, and simply we were aiming for this this origin. This is the point of origin where you should be aiming for, but I didn't really need to hold that long, and I just wanted to be in and out of the position nicely for a nice 2% trade, which then put me up 6% on my funded, 6.5% I think roughly. So yeah, that was the second trade of the 100k account. So this was the third trade on the account. This was USD CAD, and this was another really nice trade. So yeah, I'll run through this one. On the weekly time frame, you can see this was with the trend this time, which is a lot safer. We can see we're creating higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows. So I anticipate price to create a higher high at some point, or that was what I was anticipating at the time. On the daily time frame, you can see we had this really nice impulsive move up, creating a higher high. We then created a higher low. So again, anticipated price to make a higher high, okay? Which we are still on course to do because we've just created a higher low here. So we'll see what happens. And then on the 4-hour time frame, we had a really nice impulsive move here. So brought the fib out and waited for a retracement into this zone here, into the 0.5 on the fib. Now with that, we also had a 2-hour resistance zone here. You can see when price is below, we're using it as resistance. When price breaks through, we use it as support, and then we just carried on using it as support, and then eventually we got our entry. So this entry was actually on the 2-hour time frame, which is quite rare for me, but it was showing nothing on the 30-minute and nothing on the hourly. But on the 2-hour, when we had this really nice hammer candle, just as I thought, not sure if we're going to get an entry here, this might run without us, I switched over to the 2-hour time frame, saw that this candle had a really nice potential, and sure enough, we ended as a really strong hammer candle, put stops below the liquidity. Normally I like to put my stops below the 0.618, but because of this really strong wick and how big it was, it wouldn't have given me a nice risk to reward. And again, on this one, we simply aimed for 2%, which put us up to, I believe, just over 9% on the account, which was lovely. So at this point, we were up really nicely. I'll move straight on to a quick loss on USD CAD shortly after this. I think this was here. So I shouldn't have done this. It was stupid. I was getting overconfident with the account. You know, when you're one trade away from passing an account and you just make a stupid mistake. I shouldn't have done it, got overconfident. We had this really strong push up here. So I simply looked for a retracement from this area like this. My normal setup, it was a nice setup, but I do think I rushed it a little bit. I didn't have a clean entry signal. As you can see here, I simply entered off of a 30-minute engulfing candlestick, I think. Yeah, this here. I simply entered off this bullish candle. It wasn't enough for an entry looking back on it. It was a little bit silly, but it was only minus 1%. And yeah, apart from the entry signal, everything was there. We had the impulsive move. We had a resistance zone here, which aligned with where we resisted from. and used as support, but the entry signal just wasn't there. I shouldn't have taken a trade, but it is what it is. So yeah, that was 1% down because that was really good risk management. Wouldn't risk any more than 1%. So that put me on to £108,000, so 8% up. And this was the final trade on the account, which was GBP JPY. This is what got me that 10% and that pass on the one-step account. So this was another counter trend trade, I believe. Yep, you can see that we are on a downtrend on the weekly, and then a slight consolidation phase here we had on the daily time frame. It wasn't such counter trend on the daily time frame, to be fair, because we made a higher high here, anticipated a higher low here, which we got, and then expected a higher high to be created here, which is where I was going to be buying up to essentially, which happened. So potentially we could see some more push from GJ next week, but we'll focus on this trade for now. On the 4-hour time frame, we had a really impulsive move up, which was really nice. So we brought the fib out and waited for a retracement into the fib zone, the 0.5 on the fib. We then came down to the 2-hour time frame and identified this nice support and resistance zone here. We can see we're using it as support when we're above and using it as resistance when we are below. Support, resistance, breakthrough, anticipated price to use it as support. It didn't quite tap into the 0.5 on the equilibrium, but that is fine. It's not a necessity, it's just there as an extra confluence. And then the entry signal was on the hourly time frame, and we can see again the hammer candle strikes again, the really nice wick down, just about almost taps into the equilibrium, respects this support zone that we have marked out here on the 2-hour time frame, and creates a really nice bullish hammer candle. And this was the last 2% that I needed, so I simply put my TP on the place where I knew that I'd be getting the profits that I needed, and this was the final TP that I needed to pass my account. So this strategy has about a 75 to 80% win rate, and you can see in how many trades was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In 5 trades, 4 wins, 1 loss, and we passed an account in 2 weeks, guys. Like this strategy is really good. So if you're not already, make sure you're in my free group, which I'll link down below. Recently opened it up. We are up 2% at the moment after 2 trades, 1 break even, 1 really nice win. So yeah, I'll leave all my socials below, and yeah, make sure you get involved. See you in a bit, boys.